Ebonee's creativity.
Hey everybody, I'm Ebony. This is Ebonee's Creativity. Thank you so much for joining me here on my channel. Today I have for you 4 Farmhouse Dollar Tree DIYs. So please sit back and enjoy my video. Make sure you share this video with anyone who would enjoy it. Subscribe to my channel and hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and let's hop right on into number 1. Here's what DIY number 1 looks like. I'm not quite sure what you would call it. If you just call it wall decor, a sconce. If you don't do a farmhouse style, but you are interested in these, I could see them going glam by just changing the jar out for a nice gold or silver candle holder or something like that. So you can take these in many different directions, but for my purposes, I'm just going to call it a sconce because I don't know what else to call it. You could put candles instead of the greenery. You could switch it up multiple different kind of ways. So let's go ahead and get started. The first in the list of supplies is this black spray paint. I have Waverly plaster chalk paint. I also have some cable ties. Mine did not come from Dollar Tree, but they do sell them there. So you can find some there as well. Here's what they look like. You may call them zip ties. Some people do. Also a foam brush and some Dollar Tree twine. Or nautical rope. I ended up using a nautical rope. Also this organizer basket. Here's the spray paint that I used. I do not like it, but it did come from Dollar General, I believe. It's really hard to spray paint things with such a large grid sometimes, so I had to do a few coats to get all the areas covered, and this spray paint did not perform as well as my normal, which is my Rust-Oleum spray paint. I just had this on hand and decided to use it. But if you're going to recreate this, make sure you get some good Rust-Oleum spray paint that's actually going to stick. I had a few issues with this one scraping off, but luckily you couldn't see it in the final finished product. So anyway, I just spray painted this way, then I turned it over, did a couple of coats until everything was black. For the next step, I am removing the lid that came on this jar, and I am going to go ahead and use my Waverly paint and my foam brush and go ahead and paint this jar. One really good coat is all you need. Didn't take too much paint at all. Just going to go ahead and get this all covered. And here is what it looked like. Doesn't have to be perfect. You see a little bit of streaks in mine, but that's okay. Next, I'm going to put 2 of my zip ties together. I don't know how long the ones at Dollar Tree are, but mine were not long enough to wrap all the way around the top of my lid of my jar. So I had to combine 2, which is fine. So I put 2 of them together. Now I'm taking my jar, which has had time to dry, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap the zip tie around the bottom of the lid, not where the rungs are where it would screw on. But I'm going to take my hot glue gun and attach it underneath the bottom of that first lip on the jar. And just go ahead and wrap that around. Gluing sporadically, doesn't need a ton of glue, but just in a few places to make it stick. As you can see, I did not glue this 100% closed. I probably went about 80% of the way, and I left an area open in the back so that I can have space to attach this to the grid. Next, I'm going to put a bead of glue over top of the cable tie, and I'm going to use my decorative nautical rope from Dollar Tree. And my goal here is to wrap this really tautly around this top part, but my main goal is to cover the area where I combined the 2 zip ties. It had to be in the front so that the open area can be in the back so that I can attach it to the grid. So I'm just going to make sure that I use glue, not too much glue because you know this stuff can get stringy and I don't want to make a mess of it, but I want to pull tightly and just kind of do my best to disguise where the 2 cable ties are connected together. So that's what you see me doing here. I'm kind of doing a wrap and pull and then glue wherever I need kind of motion. And I also want to make sure that there's not any spaces where you can see the jar underneath the rope. So I'm kind of gluing the rope to itself and also gluing the rope to the jar. So at this point I am done wrapping, and I'm going to make sure that I cut my finishing piece at the back so that you won't be able to see it, and I'm just going to glue it down as well as I can so that it doesn't stick out. Here is the view from the back. There is a little bit of space where you can see the glass, but that is okay. And I just want you to take note that I did leave a little piece of the string unglued, and you will see why in just 1 second. So once my wrapping and gluing is done, as you can see, you can't see any spaces where you can see the glass, and you can't see the zip ties where they combine together. So that turned out pretty good. And next I'm going to take my grid, my storage container, I keep calling it grid, and I am going to figure out my placement where I want it. I think I went about 4 or 5 rows down. I stuck the 2 open ends of the zip tie through the grid, and then I just closed my zip ties by pulling them really tightly as I could. I have never used the zip ties at Dollar Tree, but the ones that I'm using, they make an audible clicking sound, and so that's how you can tell that they're linked properly. So now that I have pulled mine as tightly together as I can, I'm just going to cut the excess piece off, and the little area of decorative rope that I left in the back, I'm just going to kind of use my hot glue gun to secure that over the zip tie so you can't see it at all. So here I am making some final adjustments, just making sure that everything is put together nicely and tightly, and gluing that piece around the back down over the zip tie in the back. And when it is all said and done, here is what these look like. So here is how these turned out. I just added some 97-cent greenery that I got from Walmart. So I think they turned out pretty cute. If you wanted to take them glam, you could switch out the jar like I said earlier. You could add ribbon instead of rope. You could put a candle inside. You could paint the grid in the back gold or silver. You could really jazz these up. So this is just a basic idea, but you can use candles. You can use greenery. You can use whatever you want to make it match your decor. But I think these turned out pretty cute. For project number 2, we are just making this cute little soap container. And we are just going to use 2 of these wooden decorative boxes from Dollar Tree, some stain, a foam brush, and our hot glue gun, and also the twine from Dollar Tree. My first step is going to be to glue the 2 boxes together, and I do use the Gorilla glue sticks, so they're pretty strong. But you want to make sure that when you're selecting your crates from the Dollar Tree that you pick 2 that are very similar in size, because I noticed that they have all different sizes. Next, I'm going to stir up my stain and apply a generous coat onto the boxes. And this doesn't have to be perfect. I find that the less perfect it is, the more kind of distressed that it looks. So since we're doing farmhouse, that's the vibe we're going for anyway. So you can see some areas that did not get covered on mine, but that is perfectly fine. Next, I took my twine and cut 4 equal sized pieces, and I'm going to start just forming my letters on the box now that it's dry. So I am going to spell out the word soap, but you can put any kind of word that you want for whatever room that you're going to be placing this in. Get creative. You can put this in a kid's room. You can put cars on it and put the little toy cars inside, dinos and put toy dinosaurs, whatever you want to do. These are just general ideas, and you can get creative and make them fit your decor at your house. So the most important step when you're doing this is just to make sure that you're not using a lot of glue. We all know hot glue can get very stringy and messy, and you don't want that all over the front of your project. So I'm just putting a little drop of glue everywhere where my letters curve at. and I found that that held it together really nicely. So on my S, I have one at the beginning of the letter and on each bend, and then at the end, and that's it. So just try to use the least amount of glue possible, since this part will be visible and we don't want strings all across the front of our box. So here's how my S turned out. As you can see, it looks pretty cute, and I'm just going to continue on with forming the rest of the letters. So here's how that looked after it was all said and done, and I think it turned out pretty cute. So I just added some Bath and Body Works soaps to mine, but you can add whatever kind of soaps that you have or like. And on to project number 3. Here is one of these Dollar Tree containers that you can only really get in spring. I just happened to have one that I did not use. I just went around, I literally dipped my finger in some black paint and just went around the top and the bottom just to add a little bit of black. This was already black. And I just want to show you that you can use these 97-cent boxwoods. I can up some. And kind of throw them in there as decor. That's pretty cute. Or you can go to Walmart and get this big pack of 18 washcloths for $4. And they're pretty cheap, so they're kind of thin, but they come doubled. So you can literally just take them out as they are and roll them up. And place those. I guess it's better to do all the rows at one time, but so after all the towels are rolled up and placed inside the bucket, you have a cute little bouquet of towels to put in your bathroom and use as decor. And last but not least, we have project number 4. If you look on Pinterest at farmhouse bathrooms, you will see a lot of these signs. So I decided to make a few as well. I'm going to start off by tracing. I don't have a printer. I don't have a Cricut. So those are not excuses not to do DIY projects. I just used my computer and I traced it onto a piece of paper. Then I took these thrifted wooden plaques, which you can find in the haul that is linked above, and I just added some Waverly white chalk paint using this foam brush. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just doing one kind of a thick coat. The more places that you leave kind of unpainted, the more distressed it looks. So it's up to your discretion how much paint you want to use, but I'm just doing kind of a rough coat. So once those had a chance to dry, here's what they looked like. So like I said, I cut out the figurines that I traced off my computer screen, and I used a Coke top for the head because I am not very good at cutting, and I'm sure it would have been a hexagon by the time I tried to cut out a circle. And so I just went over this image with a Sharpie, very carefully tracing it as steadily as I could. My hand sometimes can be a little bit shaky, but I just did the best that I could, and I just traced over this with my Sharpie. You could use black paint if you have a steadier hand than I do, but I just felt like this was the best method for myself. So I just went over with my Sharpie, just making sure to kind of color in the same direction and not do any sideways or different kind of motions. I'm just taking it slow and just going in the same motion so that my final products look nice and smooth and even. So due to the fact that I did not try to do a perfect coat of paint, my signs already look a little bit distressed, but I'm going to put some Sharpie on my finger and add some more distressing. So I just colored a little pool of Sharpie on my finger and just rubbed my finger along the edge. And once it was dried up, I just put some more Sharpie and I just kept going around both plaques. And once that was complete, I did go ahead and add a coat of polyacrylic on the top. So this is how they looked when they were finished. I think they turned out pretty cute. Not 100% perfect, but hey, what in life is, right? Here are all 4 projects together again. Leave me a comment and let me know which one was your favorite and which one you are most likely to try. And I want to thank you so much for watching. Please share my video if you know anybody who would be interested in this type of content. Please do not forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. If you have the time, please select another one of my videos to watch from the choices on the screen. Bye guys.